All right, thank y'all. This is Chris and Richie, and we are here with Stacy Harkey, the man, the myth, the legend is in the building. So we're just pumped.
Stacy, you're the first guest that's cheered for themselves, and I love it. I think that's the best.
That's called. Yeah, your best hype man should be yourself.
Yeah, there you go, man. There you go.
That was the first nugget. I think let's capture that, put it on the shirt.
I think we can call it good. It's been real.
Thank y'all for listening. This was Imperfect Allies. So, Stacy, thanks for coming on. Hopefully, you've got to get a little bit of the vibe of the show. You know, our first question is like the biggest one, where you're gonna have to really walk us through your life, man. Who is Stacy Harkey, and how did you get to this point in your life?
Who is me is what you're asking.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest. Mm-hmm. No, but essentially who I am, and you just feel free to pry if I don't go deep enough or something. But the identities that I identify as, I am a gay black man. I am brave. I don't know. That's all I got, man. That's not as deep as I wanted it to be. I was so ready to just come in and be like, bah, bah, look. And then
It's like, all right, here I am.
I just sound like a modern Coke commercial, just all the diversity they can.
I could totally see that. Yeah, book Stacy Harkey if you're trying to reach everybody.
You want to hit all the numbers? Hit me up.
So then you got your labels. What about your life? What's your career? We tell everybody that you're hilarious and you're a sketch comedian. So walk us through that.
What I do? So that's actually really funny. I never have considered myself a funny person. I mean, Chris, we grew up together, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't remember myself being funny. I feel like you were funny, but I was just there to have a good time.
Well, that's what I thought about me. I was vibing off of yo funny.
Man, get out of here. Like, hype up the host or hype up the guest as a host. I know what you're doing. Man, but so essentially I lived my little shy life through high school, middle school. I felt like I was always a little like reserved, but I don't know. Growing up with me, you might be like, that's not true.
Well, you were a senior on campus when I first got to the high school too. So even though we were cool, I was like, yo, but he's a senior though. So
no, so that's the thing is like I was my senior year. I like moved high schools too.
Yeah,
I wasn't even like I didn't even like see that much. But anyways, I went to college. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna be a lawyer. I'm gonna do my thing. Anyways, so I had this like good job on campus where I was an RA, which is like a resident advisor assistant, whatever.
Yeah.
Just an older, college student who helps the incoming freshmen. And they was like having like 60 little brothers. And I had this one kid who was like, he wanted to audition for this comedy group on campus. And I was like, yeah, you could do it, man. You could do anything. Yeah, believe in yourself. And he was like, do it with me. And I was like, I take it all back. Hold on. No, but I ended up auditioning with him just to like give him support, and I ended up making it into the group.
Wow.
and he didn't, poor guy. But
wow.
I know. But I was just like, I know, poor. He like to this day we chat every now and then. He'll be like, I made you who you are.
Yeah, right.
You should be getting a cut. But he was like really cool about it, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. I didn't even know I could do anything like performance or comedy. And it was a college sketch group, so like come on,
low expectations.
But so I was like, I guess I'll try it out. And dude, it didn't take me long to realize we were like, this group was like polished for this area. We were like selling out shows within like minutes of even being open, and we were doing performances for like we would do 4 shows. Once a month, we would do 4 shows in a weekend, and it would be like 800 plus seats.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So we were like, I was like, whoa, what's going on? But I felt really bad at it. But I just dove in. I had a good time. Very soon after, one of the local networks picked up the show and wanted to make it a TV show, and we were like, this isn't nothing. It's just like a local network, know, whatever. So we started doing this thing on this local network, and it just like exploded locally. And we were like, whoa. And then it even transformed a little more where it was in the age of like YouTube, and people were just starting to put more polished content on YouTube. Up until that moment, YouTube was just like girl cries about Britney Spears and her cats.
Yeah.
In her home video. But we were like, oh, people are starting to put more polished shows, so we started putting our stuff on. Our YouTube channel exploded. We got up to like 2 million subscribers. We had a couple viral videos. We had, I don't know if you guys heard of Scott Sterling. It's the soccer video where the guy's getting hit in the face over and over again. Yeah. Had like 40 million views, and we were just like, what is happening? And that kind of like really gave us time and chances to like test our material and grow bigger, and it was pretty cool. We eventually left Studio C and started our own sketch comedy group, and we've been on Conan O'Brien. He had us on. He said he was a fan of the show, and we were like, what? Why? No, that's not why. But we had a chance to be on NBC's Bring the Funny with Chrissy Teigen, Kenan Thompson, and Jeff Foxworthy. It's just we've had a cool run, and not that we're like mega successful or anything, but like I think it feels like it's working, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I feel bad, but like I learned about Scott Sterling before I knew Stacy was in this group. So like,
oh, did you really?
Yeah. I'm like watching this like, yo, this is funny. Is there a black dude on the sidelines? Like, and then next thing I know, it's like, yo, wait, that's Stacy. How? It was crazy.
Y'all, I'm in Utah, right, doing this. Who thought Utah would be where you could grow the sketch comedy group? I'm in Utah, and like there is no diversity. So chances are, if you see me on anything from Utah as a black dude, you'll be like, that might be Stacy.
Is that?
I might have to zoom in and like text his dad and be like, yo.
Well, you said something really interesting. I was going to say, you said it without saying it, is a lot of people like when they ask like, what am I supposed to do with my comedy? What am I supposed to do with like whatever it is that I'm doing, right? Like music or whatever creative pursuit. The idea of just starting where you are, right? Joining what you can join, starting where you are, and then like you said, like that, bringing that level of polish, getting better and better. What was that like? Like, what was that like as a group to grow? Like, did the pressure elevate? Like, we have to come and do this sketch game.
What? Because it felt like the stakes weren't super high. We were at a sketch comedy group in college.
Yeah.
You know, we got a couple credits for it because it was just took up so much time, but we were essentially paying to do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we were always like, yeah, we want to make it good. We're all like driven to make it better, but it felt like the stakes were low, so we felt like we could experiment and try things out. We could test things out. We focused more on our relationship as friends and our comedy, and it wasn't about like elevating an individual. It wasn't about, oh, you know, I got to get my start. It was just like all about the product and what we did, you know? And I think, dude, spot on. Like, there's this concept people around here talk about a lot, and it's the concept of just like lifting where you stand. It's like when, you know, piano. Have you ever tried to lift a piano? The thing is heavy. But the thing is, everyone's got to like lift where they are, no matter how awkwardly shaped it is. And I think the same concept applies. It's like, you got to lift where you stand. Don't try to go to anyone else's place. Just where you are, try to do what you can. Yeah. And opportunities open up, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That what blows my mind, one, because I know you, Stacy, is the idea that you didn't think you were funny, and then you are blossoming in this space. Like that just blows my. I assume that every step of this thing was so purposeful, and it sounds so whimsical and beautiful. Like that. That's crazy to me.
Dude, it was not purposeful. I wasn't like, I'm going to be a comedian, you know? I wanted to be a lawyer. I was like, I wanted to make money. Forget your passion. Get paid.
Yeah.
You know? But now look at me. But y'all know. But I think some of the things that really contributed to me being where I am today, not that it's like this lofty place or anything, but I've always been like, I'm an extra person. Like, I throw myself into whatever I'm doing. Yeah. Whatever I'm doing, if you ask me to sweep, I'm gonna get all the dirt up. Yep. I'm gonna get it. Mm-hmm. Like, I put everything I have into what I'm working on, and I stay open to opportunities. And so like something random happens, and I'm like, yeah, I'll try it out. Worst case scenario, what happens? And I think that has been like really key for me in like growth, because if y'all would have saw me in the beginning, I mean, even now you might see me and be like, this guy is got a lot of polishing to do. That's the thing, is like, that's growth. Like, we all, like, the process is growth, and if you stop growing, you're not doing it right, you know?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's where our podcast is at. I bet our listeners are like, they got some work to do. But hey,
they're right.
We're working on it.
Facts. You know what I'm saying?
And being open to opportunities. Because personally for me, just because that's our relationship with our listeners, I had an opportunity in Texas with a radio station that I worked for, and they offered me a chance to be a part of the team, and like fear hit me like a ton of bricks, and I turned it down. And like I look back at that, and it's like, wow, I couldn't believe that I was so stifled. And the way I answered it, go ahead.
Tell me more. Fear hit you. What do you mean fear? Like what kind of fear? What are we talking about?
So it was wild, basically, and this comes to race and all kind of things. So this was a sports radio station. I grew up playing sports, but when you're in a place where a lot of people are really talented at what they do, they start talking about sports at a level that I wasn't at. And then I started telling myself, oh, maybe I'm not a sports guy. Like I just somehow wore my lower classification as a badge. And so then when they came to me like, hey, we really would like you to be a part of this. Is this something you want to do with your life? And I was like, I really don't think I'm a sports guy. Like it's turning out that that's not who I am. And they were like, oh, interesting. Okay. And that was like 2 months before my last day, and I totally shifted. And I look back at that, and it's just being open to opportunities and not letting that fear kind of where you are in your progress and in your growth stop you. And that it literally stopped me in my tracks, which I look back and it's like, dang, but I can share that with others. But
yeah, it's like a learning experience. I know it's so like welcome to imposter syndrome, right? That concept that we don't deserve what we had, that we are lightning that struck once and we got lucky or something. Nah, that is like, all for humility. I think that's a great quality to think I have a lot to learn, but like so does everyone else. Like all these systems that are set up, these are just people learning and figuring stuff out. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Right.
And and I mean, and even if people do know what they're doing, it's like they're still trying to, like, the game is always innovating, and it's like, it's just the concept. And I think you hit it on the head where it's like, you know what? I'm a firm believer. Like, I don't think I'm good at much of anything, but I have the ability to learn how to get better. And you know what? Like, if you are willing to ask where things are in the store, you'll always find it. You know what I mean? Like, go forward with that mentality, and like you can develop any skill, unless it's like be taller or something you're born with.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's a really good lesson, and I bet you don't forget that one. You know what I mean?
Nah, can't. The reminder. Although it is fun. It is fun when people are like, radio. You tried to be in radio and that dying? It's like, nah, that was my dream. Chill.
You were out there like antennas and stuff.
Exactly.
Well, what I heard in both of those stories is the ability to pivot, right? So like, Stacy, when you're like, I'm going to be a lawyer, and this thing shows up, and you knew the opportunity was there and pivoted, right? And Chris, I think with this podcast, we both had the similar experience. Like we haven't gone up in a year. I haven't been up in, it's been over almost a year.
It's been a year.
Yeah. And I never thought I would do this kind of podcast at all, but we pivoted, and all of a sudden things are happening and growing. And so, I mean, just having that ability to go when opportunity arises, you could say no to it. Sure. At the same time, like also like, well, maybe this is it. I don't know. Let's try it out. Because right now for us, the stakes are low, but I really think we're building something really great and needed. So.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I think there's like two different types of people, right? Well, that's oversimplifying, but I think there are people that are like, they're like the focus sharks, the people that are just like, they have a goal, and it's like they are going to hit at that goal at, no matter the cost. And then there's people like me that's like, I'm just happy to be alive. I'm open to new opportunities. I'm just going with the flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it might be good to like, I don't think an extreme is necessarily the best thing. I think it's good to like go to maybe explore both options, have some goals, but be flexible, and be open to tangents or to detours. You know what I mean?
100%. And that's what we're learning on this podcast. As like, if we're thinking of extremes, so much of our original worldviews that we came in with this when we started the show was more of a polarized extreme. It's all over here or it's all over here. And we've been interacting with so many different people from so many different walks of life, and you just see how beautiful the nuance is and how necessary it is. And we've been pulling ourselves out of our own maybe hyper focus or polarization, and it's improved our lives. I think we are moving in the right direction in so many ways personally. And that's a big piece of it, is not being in the extreme. I have to be this. This is what I am. And moving through different aspects of our lives. It's amazing.
I have a question for y'all, or like this concept I think about. And I don't have an answer for it, but it drives me a little like crazy when I think about it. It's the whole like, I call it the American Idol concept. And we've all seen American Idol. And when that first person, that first couple episodes where it's mainly people coming in and they're like, my family, I've been performing for them. And then they sing and you're like, why? Why didn't your family tell you? Why did they just
they let you go up there?
Why did they give you honest feedback?
Right.
And sometimes I really wonder, am I ever in that position? Am I ever the guy that's like, I'm doing comedy, and my family's like, oh, good luck, man. And then they're just waiting for me to... But, I mean, the reason I think about it is you have a dream, you have a goal, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When do you listen to the feedback? Maybe it could sound negative, it could sound honest. When do you take the advice, listen to the feedback? When do you take experience and say, I'm not getting any gigs, maybe I should stop? And when do you just dig in and push through, knowing that just around the corner might be like a sunnier day or a greener pasture? You know what I mean? Like that balance.
Yeah, that's hard.
For me, it's the process. So I got to do what makes me happy, whether I'm going to be successful or not. So being behind a microphone in front of 20 comedians that aren't listening to me makes me really happy. I don't know why, but it makes me really, really happy. The same with doing a great show in front of hundreds of people and they're just dying. Like that also, doing a good sketch or anything like that. But the process for me, my answer to that is I have to find something I love doing, and I can just do that forever. So the show is another one. I can just do this show forever because it's I love the it's hard, but I love already the impact to my life. So it's worth it for sure. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Not to discredit though, you got to do what you love, but you also got to put food on the table.
Yep.
You also got to move forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
you
it's
do.
I'm just to not say not you. I'm not saying. Well, Richie, I mean, when's the last time you ate?
Hey.
No, but I mean, just the concept of I think there's these factors where you're life has to move forward one way or another, and the idea of making it to the end and looking back and being what a waste is terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, I think
that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the goals that I've had, for instance, I've wanted those goals and not enjoyed any second of getting there. That's why I think it's so important. Like the goals, meeting goals is awesome and good, and we need it. It's part of our, I don't know, it's part of how we're successful in this particular culture. But I mean, for me, it's all about the process. Because if I look back on my life and I'm every day I did something to take care of myself. Every day, did something to take care of my loved ones. I mean, that's it, and part of that's comedy for me. Part of that's this podcast, other things. But
that's a good way to look at it, where it's take care of your basic needs, the needs of your people around you, and I think it's true. I do think at the end of the day, I think some people might look back and be like, yeah, I made all that money and I was happy. Or I did that thing even though I hated it, but it brought me a bigger house. But I think, honestly, for the most part, you're going to be looking at your experiences and your relationships.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
To be honest, that's how I feel about my life.
Yeah, for me, I think the world gives you feedback. Family is one thing, but strangers give you feedback sometimes that lets you know if something is you're learning from it, or let's say it this way: if a stranger in the world gives you negative feedback and you don't take that feedback and grow from it, then it might not be for you, because the growing aspect needs to be intrinsically on your own, right? You have to hear feedback and say, okay, I can grow from this, right? I can imagine that. So I watched Bring the Funny, and y'all didn't win. Did y'all walk away from that?
Dang.
Sorry.
We didn't.
So losers of the Bring the Funny contest.
Did y'all walk away trying to grow?
The drama behind that.
Okay. Ooh.
Bam. But it was a lot of. It was so stressful.
Yeah.
We they actually I mean, just to answer your question, we did grow from it. We learned a lot.
There we go. There we go.
I don't want to give you excuses. Yes, we didn't win.
But I want the tea though. I do want because we've been trying to get some tea on this show. So
I got tea. Essentially, just to give some eyes, we worked for a network where we did Studio C, and we have like almost 1,000 sketches up on YouTube. It's just crazy with Studio C. And NBC saw some of those sketches and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are, Conan likes you, we like you. We want you to take your top sketches and to perform them for the show." And so we were like, "Okay, cool." We talked to the network. They were like, "This is a great opportunity for everybody. We'll get we'll get notified or noticed. You'll get noticed. We'll do this thing." We moved forward with NBC. NBC's building props, building sets for these sketches that we had already made.
Wow.
And then a week before we go out, the network's like, "Psych, can't use the sketches."
Oh.
And we were like, "But hold up." And they were like, "Gotcha." And we were like, "Wait."
Wow.
So instead of like most of the groups out there being able to use our best stuff, we had to write stuff. We were in the hotel room writing sketches. It was so stressful. Where we were planning on taking our stuff that was the best, the most proven material. We were out there, like, we were in hotel. People were like relaxing and swimming, and we're like out there writing sketches. Wow. NBC was stressed out there. We're like, "Man, we got to get this stuff going." Wow. It really put us in a weird position, but it was a good learning experience. Stressful as all get out, but good.
That's crazy. That is because writing sketches. That's not like. I mean, how many writers does SNL have to put something out each week? And that's insane that y'all are put against. I did not know that. That's wild. Wow.
Bro, it was just like, it was so stressful. But it was a cool opportunity, right? And who doesn't want to make the most of that? So we, it sucked, but we did the best we could with what we had.
Yeah.
And I feel like we went farther than maybe we expected because we were like, we normally have a model where we prove our material, we test it out.
Sure.
We punch it up, we cut what's not working, like what comedians do.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that, so we were like, let's test it out on stage.
Wow, man.
That's wild.
Wow.
I know. National television, we were like, and let's see what happens. But
well, yeah, y'all did. Now rewatching it, y'all were killing it. If y'all just wrote those. That's amazing because y'all did get a lot farther than people's best stuff, and you just wrote it. Okay, wow, yeah, I'm glad that you grew from that. I'm sorry that you went through that.
But you're right, Chris. We didn't win.
Oh man, yeah, we're supposed to be nice to our guests. I apologize.
No, I'm just playing, dude.
It's Imperfect Allies, man. That's what we're here to talk to those imperfect. Stacey, I'm curious. I kind of want to switch directions a little bit.
Oh, snaps!
So you didn't say this is one of the boxes that you check off, but are you a Mormon? I considered. Yeah,
dude, it's like a weird boat. It's like a weird thing. Like Christianity and
I was gonna say Christian
being gay hasn't always like mixed really well.
Yeah.
Christianity and being black historically hasn't mixed really well. But,
right. Yeah.
But you know what? I do consider myself in some ways Mormon.
Okay.
Or LDS now.
LDS.
Like Latter-day Saints is the preferred term.
Okay.
Got you.
That's great. Hey, that's great. That's right along the alley. This show. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's like I do have like I grew up like Mormon. I'll just say Mormon. I grew up Mormon. I live in Utah, which is like predominantly Mormon.
Right.
The network we worked for was a network that was tied to BYU, which is a Mormon university, and as a byproduct, kind of like a Mormon network. So
yeah,
Mormons all in my life.
Yeah, and I was just curious the interaction there because so I was raised typical. I would say raised Southern Baptist, moved into a little bit more progressive Cumberland Presbyterian. But
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't really either.
But
it sounds
religious.
We had some robes. That's basically it. Compared to the Baptist church, we had some robes and some candles. But yeah, so I was always taught that homosexuality is a sin and against whatever. You've heard it all. Yeah. We all know this. And lately, my most recent sort of foray into Christianity. It is predominantly, it's like an 80%, 90% queer church, and so everybody in the pews is gay or queer or trans. I mean, it's incredible, and
wow.
I feel like that's a sketch waiting to write itself. I'm just saying, like, let Key and Peele take that one.
Yeah.
We already
Right.
know go there.
And I say all that to say, what has that experience sort of been like? I mean, can you talk about that a little bit, or is that?
You know what? This has been something that I thought a little bit about because I mean Utah, it's like predominantly white.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's like, I think of at BYU, which is the school I went to, it was like, it's like not even 2% of the student body is like black. It's like really tiny.
Yeah.
Like a really small percentage. Few and far between. We see somebody else and we're like, hey, yo, wait, hold on. I know, if you know someone black on campus, chances are, if you see somebody black on campus or in Utah, I might know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. I always stopping people like, where you get your haircut? Please help me.
Oh my God, yes.
Dude.
Yeah.
When I first got to Utah in 2006, was my freshman year of college, no barbers. Oh my word. And it was like, it was a double-edged sword because there are no black people here. Whatever happened with my hair, people were like, that looks great. So I'd be looking like Frederick Douglass. People would be like, you know what? I like your style. And I'd be like, you can't tell. But it's like, for real, dude, like straight up Underground Railroad looking stuff. Man, it was bad. But,
man.
But I bring that up because being black in predominantly white spaces, you like learn some things about like how you have to comport yourself and also how you have to like think about yourself. Like no one is going to give you the confidence you need to move forward. If anything, people will, not even on purpose, they'll like take that away. They'll doubt you. They'll question you. People were constantly like, yo, I mean, how did you get a scholarship to BYU? You're 5'6". What sport do you play?
Right.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
no, it was academic. Surprise, gotcha. You know what I mean? It was stuff like, it's just like, microaggressions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch of little things. Anyways, I had to develop this sense of confidence and support, within myself. You have to learn how to be your best hype man. And that means being honest with yourself about who you are and where you come from. And that's scary and hard sometimes,
Yeah.
But the thing is, once it took me like a really long time to like grapple with my sexuality and like understand it, even get to a place where I can like treat it being like, from Texas and also being like Mormon.
Yeah.
Some of those lessons I learned as a minority being black translate really well into being gay in these spaces. It's the same thing. Yeah. People will question you. They'll doubt you. You got to bring that confidence with you. Who are you as a person? Don't ever like, negotiate with people about your worth. You know what I mean? Things like that. Some of those elements transferred really well. And so I think being black helped a ton. Being gay. And it is constantly like people here are like, they are really, they grew up differently and they believe different things. And that's honestly not my business. That's their business.
Yeah.
If they feel a certain way, then you have to live with that feeling. That's not my drama.
Right.
I like that. Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good. I was talking about, I don't know why I have this. This is a thing I do with my wife. So I'll look at like costumes or makeup on television and I'll be critical. Doesn't make you look at me. I'm got long hair. I got a big floppy sweater on, but I'm like, no, that's not working. And I said that one night. I said that one night about a lady who had her eyes out, like way out here with makeup. And I was like, talking to my wife. She's like, she didn't do it for you. And I was like, you're right. She didn't do it for me. And it's the same thing you're talking about, Stacy. You're not, you're you. You're not you for anybody else. And I love
you're not living your life for other people.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, man.
And if you are living your life for other people, what a waste. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to make people happy.
Right.
Never. Never. If you live in your life for other people, you know that people want you to be this or that. That's exhausting. That takes too much energy.
It does. It does. Your control is outside of yourself, and you won't have sanity. It's just impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah,
I'm laughing I'm laughing because that's like 35 years of my life, bro.
Oh, man.
Like, that's, saying like, that's just, I'm just coming to that realization in my 40s, 30s and 40s. So, man.
Isn't that crazy how that works? It's like, if I would have known this, I mean, I've always been, and Chris, I always feel like I talk about myself when I was younger, but I always am not sure if that's how people perceived me. But I feel like I was a pretty. I mean, I could be pretty intense when I was younger. I felt like I don't know, I could be pretty spicy, but like I really coming into that lesson I came into it into my 20s and late 20s and early 30s.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up our upbringing. I really feel like because we were Boy Scouts in an all black troop, going to all white spaces. I mean, we were outside, so it's all white.
And people would be like, y'all swim, y'all camp.
What are you
And we'd
doing?
be like, nope, but we about to learn.
Yeah, exactly. For real. And we
show
had
up
so
with,
many. Go ahead.
I was just thinking of like people would come in with their troop calls and be like, we're troop 3, and we would have like full step routines and like beats were being dropped and people were like,
That's dope.
Yeah, we were killing it. But just having that experience of being the only black, like the only whatever in that space was so interesting, because we stood out like a sore thumb. You had a lot of, I remember so many times we would have recruits that we didn't know who they were, but next thing you know, they were like, "Oh, brothers, let me get over here with them." And it's like, hey man, you're white, so you stand out. We know you're not in our troop. No offense, but if you want to join, like, cool. But they would just follow us places. And then you had the other people who were like, are they okay? Are they lost? Like, why are they here? It was such an interesting upbringing. But I didn't get to see maybe Stacy where you weren't like you were with us, so you were never like Stacy out in the world. You were Stacy in Troop 118 where we all had each other's back, and so it was such a family dynamic, and we had to lean on each other. I mean, that's all. We the only black people out here, like us and our leaders. So you know what I mean? That's how I see you. That's the Stacy I grew up with, and you helped groom me in many ways. And so it's interesting to hear your story of how you experienced life, because what I got to see was just someone that was more of a rock. Like I could lean on you. Yeah, dude, I promise, man. Stacy, man. Yes. Well, it was your energy, your dynamic, because I joined the troop late. Like a lot of people might have grown up. I joined late because I was coming from another troop, and I was mad nervous to get in. One, internal racism. Like I was like, yo, this troop all black.
Like,
hold on.
I'm about to be held to a different standard, maybe.
Yeah, because
I get it.
You know what I mean? So I was real curious about how that was gonna be walking in, and it was a church that I didn't go to, and so churches have different vibes and all that, and instantly I was like, oh, this Stacy cat, I feel comfortable. I can hang with him and I can learn from him. And so I've always felt that with you, man. So this is great.
I appreciate that. Those were like in my teens and like early preteens, I was just living life and having a good time. I wasn't like, oh no, I'm gay.
Yeah.
I was just like vibing with friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't date much in like high school at all, and I just was like, oh, I'm focused on school. And then later I was like, oh, snaps. Girls are all right, but they're not all that.
Yeah.
But it's just like I just didn't even think much about it. We had a good time. That was like a safe place, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Stacey,
went to
what
the
was
world.
Chris like back then, man? 'Cause
Man.
our listeners want to hear that, man.
The same. Chris was goofy as hell.
Yeah.
Oh, family. Chris was so goofy. He just like that's why we had a good time, probably, is because we did some dumb stuff and just had a good time. It was random to like. Remember, we would just try to like freestyle to like.
Oh yeah.
We would be hitting up like poses, like we just did all sorts of stuff. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I do. I still know the song that we would do and be like, tableau, tableau, tableau. Like Chris, I always remember you being super athletic. You were super quick. Man, I think you like dusted my dad in something, and
That's probably
he
true.
was like, probably. He gave you a hard time, but he loved it anyways. But Chris was super fun, super goofy, super nice to everyone, really welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris was never in the middle of drama.
No, and we had it.
Right?
We definitely had it, but
I feel like the only drama I had was surprisingly with adults.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, as leaders, like the leaders, sometimes rubbed us the wrong way. I remember Philmont so well because
oh man,
Philmont was wild.
What is it? It is an 80-mile hike we did over 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was
Woo!
wild.
Just living in the woods.
Wow.
That was a lot for us. You know, we had one guy who did not use the bathroom for several days, and then ended up having to be like care flighted out because
He didn't poop for so long he passed out. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. The vasovagal
Like his
response,
body was
man.
like, listen.
Push this.
And was that me and you, Chris, that had to go run for help?
yeah.
Me 5'6" with a tiny stride, and you with a long leg. We were like, me, you, Mr. Parham, were just huffing it back. But I remember we had some issues with the adults, and I was like, was I the voice? I feel like
Probably.
I was like, listen, listen.
I wasn't there,
senior
but I'm gonna say
citizens.
yes.
I remember being pretty vocal about it, and I remember pissing off some people. But maybe I felt comfortable because my dad was there. I do remember my dad being like, "Hey, like, remember respect."
I can
And I was
hear
like,
it.
"I'll respect them when they act like adults." No.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, good times.
For real.
Stories.
Well, so the second half of our show is kind of talking about your labels and what people who want to be allies, what are some things that allies can do to help you in the spaces you navigate, essentially?
You know what, man? I think that's kind of a tough question. I think we like to simplify it and be like, just like be an ally. What you got to do is you got to be on the forefront, but don't step in front of people. But like support me, but don't take the spotlight from me. But like here, I feel like it could be really confusing, and I think a lot of times there's some elements that we know, like try to be more understanding, get to know people around you that are different than you. You know what I mean? I think that goes a long way. But ultimately, like, you got someone in your life and you want to know how to support them better, like, talk to them about it. I think for me and my friends, that's what I do with my friends. I'm always like, yo, like when I came out to my family, I was like, yo, your boy's gay. And my dad, he was like, what? He thought it was a prank. He was like, I know you're recording this. But then I told him, I was like, I'm gay. Also, this is what you can do to like help me in this situation. I didn't want to wait for them to look it up on the internet, go to like, intensechristianparents.com and be like, I have to lock him in a closet with something weird.
Yeah.
But I just like told him what I needed.
Yeah.
And for me being gay, that meant just like support me in my life like you would anybody else. Like, I don't want it to be like a weird secret. It's just the way my life is.
Yeah.
For my friends around here being black, and like all my friends are like, well, most of them are white. I'm like, listen, when stuff goes down, I need you to understand why this is hard for me.
Yeah.
So when George Floyd went down, I need you to understand why this is difficult. And I mean, I had a day on set where I also warmed the audience. I was like the MC of our sketch shows. So we put on these live sketch shows. We'd record it with like TV equipment, and we'd have an audience there. And the day Trayvon Martin, all that went down, I was on
tough.
set. And I was like, I had to go perform, and I just like broke down. I was like, I don't cry much, but I was just And I think for my friends, it was the first time that they were like, oh, wait a second. They're like, this is more than just like news. This is more than just like someone died. And I mean, they've been great. It's taken years, which is what it. I mean, look at us. We've lived our whole lives like this, and we're still learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's taken time, but seeking to understand people, I would say, is probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah. First
like
step
listening.
for sure. And we really like how you said that, because a lot of our show has been recognizing both of those truths of like, just come and talk to me, and you don't have to go to this big elaborate way to really be my friend or be an ally for me. But at the same time, I recognize that before, this used to just be news to you. And so it is a process of understanding that it's not just news for everybody, and it's both sides have to come to that understanding, and it takes time.
It's tough. It's like super. It's like there's like a couple things that are just like super unfair, but they're just reality. And I think what comes with being gay is like, I dated this guy who's great. He was super just like, he had been out for like years and decades, and he was just like, listen, like you've had 30 years to grapple with your sexuality and come to terms with it, and you're still figuring it out. He's like, your parents have just found out.
Yeah.
It's like you know what I mean? You've had all this time to like try to figure things out, and they are just figuring things out. I remember when I was starting to learn, I took a sociology class in Utah, and it like blew my mind about things that I didn't really even realize about being black in this country and oppression and systemic oppression, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like taking me time to learn.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you know, it's gonna take people some time, and I think honestly, if people are even making an effort to learn, it like means the world to me.
That's awesome.
I'll take you where you're at if you're willing to learn. I mean, don't come in here with this like racist trying to challenge me stuff. I'm like, I'm not trying to debate anybody.
Yeah.
You know, hear my experience is great. If not, then like, you can find some forum on Reddit to get that out of your system.
Yeah. But I forget that it took me a long time to learn this thing, right? Like understanding race, it takes so much time, and I'm still learning. And I was sharing how I'm going about Black History Month this year is different because I'm forcing myself to look in spaces that I hadn't looked for Black people before, right? And be like, oh, yo, we were out here. Why did I think we weren't? Like, it's just there's so much to learn, and it does take a lot of time. And so we've had 30 plus years, and it still takes time. Yeah. So if you're an ally,
not that that's an excuse, because I think it's like the greatest tragedy to have someone you love say I'm hurting, and then you're like, no, you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Hey, this is tough for me. No, it's not. It's like, that's like the biggest slap in the face. So if people are telling you they're having a hard time and your first reaction is, but this is why you're not, then like, you know.
Yeah. Well, and you said something that I hear as dangerously close to you, is you said you're working on accepting life being gay, right? And some people might assume that means accepting that there are going to be infringements upon you and things like that. And so I wanted to address that because acceptance is, sometimes I hear that on the right, like just accept it. This is how the way is, and this is how life is. And so what type of acceptance are you speaking of?
When I talked about accepting myself, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Man, okay, so and I'm glad you brought that up because that's totally different than how I'm thinking of it. I think of it as like a process of authenticity. It's a process of essentially. So this is how I think of authenticity. It comes in two rounds. It's first off the process of getting to know yourself, which can take some time. Like truly finding out what your preferences are, who you are, what you like, what you don't like. Being really honest with like the pain you feel and the joys you experience, right? That takes time sometimes. It takes some serious digging. People go to therapy for that, and it's, you know, we're still working through it. So learning who you are, right, is the first step, and then the second step is living that way, being that. So you know, if you like, for example, the first step of learning yourself would be like you go into a restaurant and you like you're gonna order ice cream. It's an ice cream parlor, I don't know. And you're like, okay, I know in my head, I know I want chocolate ice cream, right? Even though everyone's telling me to get a different type of ice cream. That's the first part, just like being honest with yourself. I know I want. And the second part is just doing it.
Ordering.
I'm gonna get chocolate ice cream. Yeah. And so in my own life, that's like recognizing, oh shoot, I'm gay, and maybe that life doesn't look like what my parents thought or what this religion thinks. The second step is being that, is like reflecting that, living in a way that is honest with who I am on the inside. And I think they're both tough. And I think when you don't do that, when they're different, when you are a certain way but you live in a different way, you experience an incongruity. You just feel out of whack. But once you get those in line, I think you could truly be authentic and upfront with yourself. And I think you're just like once again, creative energy, man. I'm telling you. Once I came out, so much creative energy that I went into hiding who I was or living for someone else, all of a sudden could go into like my craft.
Oh wow!
I felt like I could throw more into comedy. I could pull more from experience. I feel like I got like a boost in creativity. It's just like all this energy we put into this other stuff. Yeah. It can like go into what you want it to be. If you are like really learn yourself, honor who you are, and then like live that way. I think authenticity is a huge part of acceptance. Also, do you guys hear like banging and drums and stuff?
Nah.
Oh, okay, good. There's like someone is practicing in the apartment below us, and so
we're good.
My bad.
Man, you spoke to something I think that Chris and I are both. I know I am. I won't speak for Chris, but I mean, just that like. You're hitting me deep here, man. I'm sorry. It's a podcast, and we're supposed to be able to speak well, but I can't. I mean, it's just
thanks, man.
You're hitting something. I think that it's not only for me, but for our listeners as well. Is like finding out who you are and not. There's a balance, at least in my mind. So the Christian ethic says serve other people, but there's also the you can't serve anybody if you're not healthy, and if all of your stuff is focused on trying to hide or be like polite and fit into this thing that you're obviously, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me now. I'm obviously not this. Whatever you think this is, I'm not that person. That's really, there's like me coming to that realization later in life. Like there's a lot of mourning that happened. Did you experience any of that at all? Like mourning the like ideal that you're handed? Yeah, expectations or something.
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a bunch of I think it's kind of necessary. There's a bunch of like loss that's experienced. Like I always thought my role in life, one of my big roles in life was to marry a woman and have a bunch of kids and raise these kids up right. And like my life, once I started accepting who I was and looking deeper, I was like, yeah, that's not how my life looks. Put two men together, we can't make a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, there are options, but it's like stuff like that. Like you mourn maybe expectations or even just like relationships in some sense too.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, but on that note, I do want to say, with that letting go of certain things, mourning the loss of things, it opens up space for new things to enter your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Newer, richer experiences, I think. It's just part of growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can come to things with, and you can come to service with authenticity, right? Like you can you can if you come with your full self, and that full self, like for me, that full self is, I'm always going to cut up. Like in a business meeting or anything else like that. Like, I mean, I've had bosses, I've had like leadership being like, you got to stop, you know? And I'm like, no, y'all don't understand. I don't know how y'all are dealing with life, because what we're doing here is crazy boring. And anyway, so
I love the idea of you at a funeral and they're like, stop, Richie. And you're like, this is who I am. This is who I am. Yeah.
We're making these jokes. No.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I'm on that same journey. And I think it's also confusing when the loss of the expectation isn't a label necessarily. It's like this false thing that I personally built up in my head of who I was going to be, essentially, and accepting where I am and who I am, and it's been an interesting week for me, because that's what I've been working through, is acceptance. And I always pictured myself, well, the first dream was the athlete, because I was gifted athletically and things came very naturally and easily. And so you just start building these things of who you're going to be. And when that doesn't pan out, it's hard to not keep fighting that. And it's hard to just accept you have all these other opportunities, all these other great things that could come into your life, but you're spending so much energy holding on to this falsehood, this false expectation of what you thought you were supposed to be. And I probably, this podcast has gotten me so much closer to healing on that space, because I have always felt that I'm supposed to be the greatest that will help my family have some kind of notice and known. And it's like the LeBron James, you get told that you're going to have the world on your shoulders and that you're going to lift up all these people with you. And it sounds insane when I say it, because it's so unrealistic. But the reality of that being what I was judging myself by and holding myself to, it's been so hard to just let that go and just accept.
Yeah, man. You're not alone in that. And I think that's I think it's hard to talk about just because it is like a very difficult thing to do. It's one of those things that's like so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to say, like, I need to heal. It's like a process. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So really, Stacey, on this podcast, we've been coming up with so many human undertones that have been prescribed labels that really dissolve down to simply life as a human. And if it is shedding this expectation of you're going to be this athlete, or you're going to be straight, or you're going to be the perfect Christian, The process that we individually go through is so similar that it shouldn't even be considered different. And we're just seeing how human we are. And what I've loved about Imperfect Allies is we're realizing that we are all allies to each other, and the labels aren't actually as important as we've made them out to be. And so it's just your story aligning with the other episodes that we've had, me and Richie's journey. We would like to say, well, but he's a Mormon and he's gay, and since we don't have those labels, there's no way we can relate. But that's dumb, because everything you said connected so deeply to each one of us, and I'm sure our listeners.
I love that. What if you guys find out later that you're also gay and Mormon? That might be why you relate to them.
You're right. I've been
very well be.
That's
sure
good.
You're like, oh snaps! All of a sudden you're wearing a placket, walking down the street in a white shirt.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on, dude. I think you're spot on. I think human experiences transcend labels.
Yeah.
And like, unfortunately, it just takes a lot for us to remember that.
Yeah.
So labels are important, you know, and it's like important in some ways to feel like you can have your tribe, or you just have a way to let people know that maybe in some experiences you are going through a different, but it's like they translate. Once I came out, I had people reaching out to me. That one kid reached out and he was like, my mom died, and your post about coming out meant a lot to me. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I didn't get that. And but it was cool. One lady reached out to me and she was like, you know what? I'm in a community where I'm expected to have children, but I don't want children. Your post meant a lot to me. And it was like, it had nothing to do with their sexuality.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It transcended the label, and it was relevant to them, and they found something there, which was cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the issue is allowing those experiences to be part of what humanity is, right? I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I was taught that that's, being trans is not part of human experience. Being gay is not part of human experience, right? Yeah.
I think you're spot on, dude. That's where that's the like step.
Yeah, it's like when people are saying this is my experience, we have to believe them. It's just like, that's kind of the basis. And then we can go in and say, oh wow, we're not, while there are differences. Like Chris and I have found a ton of like white and black differences for sure. Cultural differences, cultural differences. But it's flavor versus like a substance, you know what I mean? Like, it's all the same. I mean, that's what it feels like anyway. That's what it feels like.
I love that.
So, like, Chris, do you have something?
So I was going to ask a question, comedy related. If you're still in the same tone, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So just one of our questions that we ask, and this is probably the hardest one that we ask, is with the groups that you're a part of, are there things you look excited for this?
I'm ready. I love the tough stuff. I'm like, go in.
Okay.
Go in. Just
are there things that you wish that those that are in your groups or part of those groups, you wish they would hear but they don't hear?
You know what, man? I really lucked out with the people I work with. The reason we work. I've been working with these guys since college. Like the sketch comedy group I got into in college. These are the people I work with. They're my roommates. That's amazing. They're some of my best friends. Like I live with some of the people.
Wow.
So they're definitely like family. Yeah. And we wouldn't have made it this far if they weren't willing to listen at some point or weren't willing to understand my experiences. But they listen really well, and they're just like if all people were like them, the world would be just a way better place. You know what I mean? Nice. Just like we would be so much better to each other. So I honestly don't have, as far as like hopes and expectations and dreams, I think we go a long way together.
What about if you took a label, pick Mormon, gay, black, comedian, right? You take a label. Are there things that are relatively commonly assumed in that group that you don't prescribe to, and that you might get flack for saying that because the group is like, this is what it means to be black, or this is what it means to be Mormon, and you're like, that doesn't fit me. That's not who I am.
It's just like these people are like my people. They know me better than anyone else. Like I think when I first joined the comedy group in 2010, I was like, hey, I'm excited to be here, My only thing, I don't do black jokes. I saw someone like deflate in the corner. But I was like, I caught you. I caught you. And I'm very like, my motto is like, you know, as a minority, whether you want it or not, you're an ambassador for your group. And it kind of sucks sometimes, but that just means, you know, take the step back when you need it. But like, I also speak up pretty readily. And we had one situation where we had one dude who wasn't necessarily in the group. He helped with like tech and stuff. And he was a new guy, and he was just trying to fit in and stuff. And we were talking about stylistic shoots we can do to promote the next season. And someone mentioned this like new theme they were doing with colors, where they're like, you know, we get that crushed black, and the guy was like, haha, like Stacy. And everybody in my group knew. They were like, uh-oh, you're gonna get it. But I mean, I was just like, but this is like my style. Is like, I turned to him and I was like, hey, that's pretty offensive. And it's not funny. And I know that you are feeling insecure and that you're maybe trying to figure out how to fit in, but that's not the way to do it. I'm not gonna hold it against you, but I need to just communicate this to you. And he was like, of course, mortified and humiliated and embarrassed. And I was like, you know what? I'm not trying to get any currency out of your pain. I'm not trying to feel better from what you go through. I just want to communicate it. Never did it again. But that's how I handle my stuff. It's like something happens and I'm like,
That's
it's like, listen, I am the adult of all adults here, and I'm not going to try to be condescending, but what you did was foolishness, and so I'll let you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I'm not trying to rip you apart. I'm just going to call it what it is. I'm not going to make you feel better about it either.
Wow.
It's a choice you made, you know? Let's grow together. Listen, let's grow together. I'm not going to hold your hand. You made a mess. I'm going to stick your nose in it.
Yeah.
And then we move on. Let's not make any more. That's like incredibly patronizing, but that's... Yeah.
No, that's amazing. To be the model of how to appropriately handle something. Obviously, you're a comedian, so we expound on what actually happened. But what you said, how you handled it, that is masterful. And I think, you know, not all of the people listening, not all of us are at that level where we can handle it that way. But
it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not. But I loved also how you spoke to the reality that person was in a place where they weren't in the in-group and they're trying to relate and they do something that isn't the best way to do it. And you spoke to that.
I know what he was trying. Yeah. And I think mad support to my friends in that comedy group. If anyone would have validated him, if they would have laughed, it could have just like undercut the whole experience. He would have felt like he would have got what he wanted, which was a sense, you know, so it's like I've talked to him about that too, where it's like, listen, if you see injustice, if someone's being treated poorly, you and your discomfort of like a chuckle can be like validation for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's not reward that, you know?
Well, and then that gives the person the excuse to say, see, it's Stacy who's overacting because they laugh.
Yeah.
And we see that all the time. The time.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, but like I feel like a lot of white people I interact with are like, people are non-confrontational and they don't want to cause an issue. That let's just take the pathway of least resistance here. So if someone's getting hot and bothered, it's like, calm down, even if you're justified.
Yeah.
And now I guess that was something I had to like talk to my friends about, was like, listen, like this complacent behavior, I can't have that.
Yeah.
That's not where change comes from. It doesn't come from us being like, well, let's just you know, you rioted on the Capitol, let's just be friends. It's like, no, there are consequences for our actions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I didn't make the rules. They were there before you stormed and all this stuff.
For real.
Yeah, for real.
And we actually had an episode where we discussed conflict resolution in different cultures and what it looks like. And Rich was expounding on his experience, you know, personally, what it meant to have conflict resolution. Rich, can you share just kind of a little bit of that?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, at first, and I don't know, the first thing it brought to my mind was when you share that story, is the lesson that I'm learning is an angry black man is not a dangerous black man. And I know that sounds really hard. Like, I hear it.
Yeah.
But that's a lesson that I had to learn. I mean,
Wow.
and that's pretty heavy. You know what I mean? Like that, I don't know what to do with it other than just to be like, oh, you're right. And I mean, because I don't know if I wasn't raised by my parents to not be confrontational. But it was definitely a survival skill that I used for sure. If I was a peacemaker, if I could make you laugh, you wouldn't hit me, like not my parents, but like my peers. You know, if I could just defer to whoever it was in the room, you know, and I would have been a guy that would laugh at that guy's joke just because I was trying to get along, just because I was trying.
Yeah, I get it.
You
It's
know,
a human thing. It's not
yeah,
like
absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, I strangely empathize with both of you in that situation. But conflict was never anything that I was like comfortable with or even learned how to do. And the more I learned how to do it, the more I learned, like, strangely about myself. Like the truer I am of myself, or the more authentic I am. Because humans in general, anger is an emotion that we all share, and we can present it to one another in ways that are safe and, you know, appropriate. Like, that, you know, that kind of thing. And even if you yelled at the guy, I would be like, yeah, that's appropriate, because it was a crappy thing to say. And so, but I've had to learn that for real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's a really. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, you're good. You're good.
I think that's just really astute. I think anger is. I'm a big believer, and this comes from my Christian roots. I'm like, the feelings we have, we're all given by a perfect, all-powerful being, and they're not bad. Who we are, created by an all-powerful being, it's not bad. Learning how to navigate those and tactfully learning how to, like, use them is important. I think anger can be a good motivator for people to get out of dangerous situations. I mean, anger might motivate you to say something in defense of yourself that maybe you wouldn't say in a different situation. It's just like these things can be good, and conflict is not bad. I think we just we just like think conflict is bad. It means a fight. It means discomfort. Discomfort is growth. That's like stepping out of that comfort zone is not going to be comfortable. And in order for a community, which can be anything from 2 to unlimited number of people, to develop, there's going to be conflict. Whenever you're bringing different styles together, there's going to be bumping. There's going to be tectonic plates rubbing against each other. And what you're doing is just navigating boundaries. And the healthiest way to move through that is to communicate openly.
Yeah.
Because if you come forward with conflict and you don't communicate openly, it's going to get buried and then come right back up. That's like straight up studies on human interaction.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like stuff that I had to like study a little bit. But I'm like, that's just, conflict is uncomfortable, but it's growth and it's important.
Necessary, for sure.
Yeah.
And to go to the question I was thinking about earlier, it kind of ties in with entertainment, with your branding. How do you navigate saying something or not saying something with your art? And because I know a lot of times nowadays you have athletes speaking out or athletes not speaking out, you know, depending on how they feel about these things. And we're all comedians here, and it's a space we have to navigate that. So I'm curious how you handle that.
Yo, that's a really good question, and I'm sure in the age of cancel culture and woke era, and it's just polarized communities, it's like it can be a tricky place to tread. You know what I mean? You look at, is it Gina Carlson with a Mandalorian who just got let go because she was like tweeted some pro-Trump stuff, and you know, it's just like this age now. It's like it's tricky, and we, especially with the comedy we create with JK Studios or with Studio C, is like we really try to focus on creating a place people can come to just like forget about the day, relax.
Yeah.
So what we do is we avoid political talk. For the most part, we avoid hot topics, because the last thing we want to do is we want to create an environment where people come together. You know what I mean? And there's like so much in the world we can discuss. We get enough politics out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if we do make fun of a political party, we make sure we make fun of the other one. We want to make it feel a little bit balanced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want to make it be something people can enjoy. And some people might call us a cop-out. We're not taking a stand, but the thing is, we know our brand and we know what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And they could throw all the fits they want, but at the end of the day, we're not creating comedy that's going to encourage you to vote a certain way or whatever. It's comedy that's going to help you relax and get away. I mean, and there were points that, like, when it came to George Floyd, it was huge for us. We posted something on like YouTube about it, just because we were like, it was really cool from the group. They were just like, listen, it's unfortunate that like death is polarizing, or like, you know, black man dying is a hot topic that's debatable.
Yeah.
And we want to support the importance of human lives. And I was like,
That's
it meant a
Wow.
lot to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it meant a whole lot to me. And so there are moments where it's like, it's not like we're going to be like, we're not going to condemn pedophilia because everyone has a side. It's like, no, listen. There's like, we can understand the difference between
Right.
how you might economically feel, or how you might feel about the economy and about like financial responsibility. And we can navigate that, but we don't have to. Not that we're cracking jokes about pedophilia. That's terrible.
Right.
But it's like we don't have to, when it comes to human rights or when it comes to life and death, we're not going to be like, everyone has a side.
Right.
Yeah.
But we still, even on that note, we know what we're trying to accomplish. And that is to create a safe place for people to just like unwind, relax, forget about the day. We try to create evergreen comedy. Every now and then we do stuff that's like topical. We try to do stuff you can watch at any point and you can enjoy it, Stuff
Y'all do
like
that.
It's like,
Yeah.
we
for
try.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll see. I don't know if that answered your question, but
100%. 100%. And it really ties to what we've talked about as for allyship is not like people are going to judge your allyship. People are going to judge when you speak up and how you speak up. But if you know your intentions, if you know that you are reaching out, communicating, talking to people, and you're seeing the change in your life, you're seeing new people in your life, and you're growing in that regard, then don't worry about all the people that are just really just trying to make you measure up to what they think is a superior way to be. And we talked about that on many different podcast episodes. If your intentions are to grow and to learn and to listen, your allyship is phenomenal. It's going to be imperfect. And that's what this podcast is about. And Stacy, man, we're so thankful to have you on. You
Man,
dropped
thank
so
you
many
so
nuggets.
much. Yeah,
get
man.
out of here, guys.
Oh, this
Stop.
is great. This is great, man. This was great.
Oh man, I talk too much is what I do. Shoot.
That's
good,
perfect for
though.
this. That's what we need. You will be back. That's what you just said. Yeah. You got more to say? Perfect. But
So
Don't forget about me when this explodes. I'll be like,
my last question for you is, are we trying out for SNL?
bro, I'm gonna be for real, man. I think we were talking about our passions earlier. One thing I
Yeah.
love, I'm not like driven to be like the best performer, to be like rich and famous and stuff. I love working with my friends.
There you
That's
go.
Like one of that's like one of my biggest motivators.
There you
And
go.
like honestly, I'm like being like straight up.
Yep.
Is like, I want to make money so I can do what I want. I mean, so does everyone, right?
Sure.
I'm not in for the fame. It's not like being recognized is not all that. It's you lose privacy.
yeah.
But and also SNL just sounds like a really horrible work environment, to be honest. It's like
Oh,
they
man.
like put them through it.
I
yeah,
bet.
for
They
sure.
were like they put them through it.
For sure.
Man.
Yeah, I wanted to be on
But-
SNL.
so the answer's no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wanted to be on
Why
SNL.
don't you
and-
see me audition for it next week?
until hey man, I'm not gonna hold it against you. But until I found out what the job entailed, I was like, I'll host one day, but I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah, it seems James
my-
Franco did he did like a little mini doc on it his time in it. And it was
Yeah.
really eye opening, and I think it's good for people to see too that they're not just like sitting and being like, we're goofing off. Not that I want to do that, but it's
Yeah.
like it's like, it can be a cutthroat environment and it can be really intense.
Yeah.
It's not all just butterflies and rainbows.
Right. Yeah.
and I want butterflies and rainbows. That's what I want.
Sounds like that's what you have.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good gig, like we want to grow still and we want to keep moving forward, but I like where I am and I like where I'm going.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Stacy. We always end our shows with a piece, right? So thank
Yeah.
y'all. Is there anything we need to plug for you?
Yeah, let's do some plugs.
No. If you want to see what I'm working on, you can just find me on Stacey Harkey on Instagram. You could look up JK Studios on YouTube or Studio C on YouTube, and you'll just see like what I'm up to and what we're doing.